Welcome to the High School Register Apprenticeship webinar series hosted by Iowa Workforce Development in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship, Iowa Economic Development Office, or Iowa Economic Development Authority, and the Governor's Office. We really appreciate all of you taking your time today to join us on a discussion on advanced manufacturing. We have some great presenters lined up for you today. But before we start moving on our presentation, our presenters, we're going to talk a little bit about some housekeeping details. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, you can certainly go down and do the chat function within Zoom and write out your question, and we can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Also, the webinar will be recorded, and it is currently being recorded right now, and will be added to our Future Ready Iowa website, futurereadyowa.gov, and our apprenticeship website, EarnAndLearnIowa.gov, at the completion of the webinar series. We are trying to actually have the webinars go up within 2 weeks of them being taped, but all the webinars will be up there by the end of the series, which is at the end of April. Please keep your phone on mute until we are in the question and answer phase, so then we can hold off on some of the background noises. So today's presenters, we have a great list of individuals that are going to be sharing their knowledge with us on advanced manufacturing. We have some representatives from West Delaware County High School, along with Henderson Products and Paladine. And then we have representatives from North Scott High School. And then after they're done presenting, we will be switching it over to all of you that are on the call for questions and answers. So please do not hesitate to ask all your questions to these great resources that we have. I'm going to kick it over to West Delaware, and they can start talking on advanced manufacturing.
All right, thanks, Michelle. My name is Seth Harms. Tom Kenny, Henderson Products. And then we have Tim Felderman over here. I'm going to go ahead and share this slideshow right now so you can kind of see it. And I just want to confirm that everything is okay before we get started one more time. And slideshow. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Looks good.
All right, so here we go. We had the opportunity to start a registered apprenticeship program in July, I believe, of 2018. We went and started the paperwork, and we've run it now. We've had 4 graduates come through. We're currently serving 8 more, and we've had quite a little success, but we do have some opportunities for growth, and we'll test that here in this slideshow. I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Felderman talk on these slides here.
Now, one of the core components of the West Delaware vision is our different opportunities and how we're building an educational environment for 21st century skills. And from, I'm sure with all of your knowledge of different apprenticeship opportunities, apprenticeships fits perfectly into what we are trying to create with different learning experiences in a real world context, as well as developing and applying career readiness skills that we have defined here in productivity and accountability, communication, problem solving, etc. So it was just a natural fit for us when the opportunity arose that we need to present more opportunities and apprenticeships for our students.
So just kind of a little bit of a background. What is a high school register, or what is a registered apprenticeship program? It's been used for a lot of years. Companies have used it, union trades have used it, and it's very much employer driven, a learn while you earn model. The one thing I'm sure either Tom or Tim may allude to this too. The nice thing, it says employer driven because you have an employee, but the school takes a lot of the paperwork side of things over, so the businesses don't have to, and I think that's very important because they're very busy as it is too, and they're helping support our students, which is very, very beneficial. The students are getting a job, on the job training in these local businesses. They're treated no different than any other employee. We're matching national skill standards, and they're getting paid, and they're getting paid money that these students are very proud of. And talking with my students, they're able to do a lot of things many other students couldn't. So how we got this started, we created a team. When we were approved for this, we created a team that consisted of business representatives, anywhere from HR to weld instructors, weld engineers, plant managers, anything like that. We also had our economic development through the Delaware County available at these meetings. We Northeast Iowa Community College, obviously West Delaware High School, and I think I double starred that. Greer was very instrumental. Without Greer's information, guidance, I don't believe any of this would have come to pass. So Greer, if you're listening, thank you very much for what you've done for us. And she's very willing to help any school start this up and make it a success. So how this was all brought by, some of the relationships that we've created. And one of the things that I want to say, if there's educators on here too, is the business relationships in terms of the instructor or the school district is just outstanding. Through these programs with community support, we've had different donors step up and want to help with our programs. And I think a lot of it has to do with just getting the word out there of what we have and what we're working towards. Many different, grant opportunities and things like that. I've had the opportunity and any time needed, I can go out to the industry and work with not only the welders, but the instructors and the engineers and the plant managers and everybody to better my program, to help my program to better suit our industries. The curriculum that we have in these classes have been written to match industry specifications and industry needs. Now, obviously, Tom and I had a discussion about this yesterday. In the high school classroom, you cannot meet all the demands that the industry is needing. However, what we can do to better the likelihood of our students getting hired is what it's all about. And also on the business side, it's an opportunity for the businesses to be involved with the students in the classrooms. We've had a lot of success. And I know Tim Geyer's on here from Paladin, and with Tom Kenny and even XL Trailers. When business individuals come in with their shirt on that says whatever company they're representing, and they work with those students and they talk to those students, and then those students really want to go there. And I think that's huge in the support and the success that we've had with this company and our apprenticeship program. So how we kind of gotten excited, getting things started. We've had, and how I guess I've pressed this to try to get students excited as well. We had the opportunity to have Governor Reynolds and the Lieutenant Governor come in and talk. With that, if you see in the picture there, I can't see it because my pictures are in the way, but there's a student there who had the opportunity to present to the crowd and in front of Governor Reynolds, which I thought was outstanding. I think he was probably like a B student in public speaking and did an A++ job. We've created video presentations to try to expand the program. I've talked to our entire student body. I've also actually, this year, I've started going to outlying school districts to try to bring more students in. Some of the smaller districts that we have around us, great opportunity for them. And currently, I believe we have 3 from outlying school districts that are running in the program. And just the normal conversation with staff members and different parent meetings. I did start parent meetings. I had a parent from the second round come to me and say, this is all great and wonderful, but the parents don't know a whole lot about it. So I said, well, I really appreciate that feedback, and was able to create a parent meeting, a parent night for the individuals starting, and that made a lot of help. And then I threw the dollar signs on there because, boy, that the money that these kids are making, that's getting them excited. And I don't know if I showed in this presentation or not, but we're figuring these kids are making close to 20,000 when it's all said and done with the amount of hours they're working. And for a high school student to be making that kind of money is pretty awesome. Just hope they learn how to spend it a little bit better. Sometimes they get a little bit crazy on their spending. So, and then as the process continues, this is as real life as it gets. The application process is a great opportunity for the businesses and the instructors and what I'm going to call our team, as I alluded to earlier, gives the opportunity to talk about the student, discuss the students. The HRs are in there. They're taking a look at the application techniques. So it goes well above the classroom walls. That if a student doesn't fill it out right, they're thrown, and they can try again the next time. The businesses have an opportunity to talk to me and talk to our guidance counselor and our principal and our superintendent about the individuals to see what we feel and how they feel they would be as an employee. Once they go through the application process, then we set up mock interviews. Usually Northeast Iowa Community College is involved with this, along with we've had Iowa Workforce Development, Economic Development. I try to get a different group each time, and we set it up just like the real thing. As they come to the next step with the interview process, that's where myself as the instructor, I don't say a word any longer. Now it's up to the industry. It's up to the companies to choose who they want, if they want, and why they want. I sit back and I take notes. I help students with, tips maybe that could help them do better the next time, whether they get the job or not. We set up tours then with the companies so they can go ahead and they can go through each company so they can see what's going on. And one of the things that the team decided that was pretty instrumental, I think, it's made a little confusion at times, but the students also get to choose. We have 3 industries right now in this procedure. So the industries choose their choices, the students choose their choices, and I try to match them up the best way that I can. And it's been beneficial. I think it puts the kid in a place where they want to be, and hopefully the company gets a student that they want to have as well. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we based our pay on a competency base. Now, with the federal regulations, they still have to complete the 2,000 hours. However, we look at the levels, the different levels that we have set, and try to move them into that meat of the training, as soon as they're ready, and not necessarily halfway through the program. So level 1 training starts at $12 an hour for our students. Goes anywhere from 90 to 100 days, kind of like your 90 days at any industry. If you get hired, you're kind of on that trial period. Very, very similar. I then go and meet with whomever, usually mentors or supervisors, and we discuss, the quality of the applicant. How are they doing? Are they ready to move into that meet? Are they ready to move into that higher training? From there, once they give us the okay, the students move to $15 an hour. And all 3 of our companies now have been supportive on the premium also for second shift. So it's actually a little bit more, which is really nice for those kids. And boy, you should see their eyes light up when they get that extra pay. That's big money. They're super excited about it. Once they hit that 2,000 hours, they've hit all of the competencies that have been required, and they're completing the course. They're at full-time wages, 18 plus, whatever. It has to be a minimum, I believe, of 18. And wherever the company pays them after that is where they're set. We've kind of asked our students to work approximately 15 hours per week. Most of our students have worked much more. I know as I look in the computer here, I can see Tim smiling a little bit. He had one that liked to work a lot more than that. So you've got students who want to make money. They've got that opportunity. through the summer, 40 hours a week. They can work overtime. And I showed you here, minimum, if they work the absolute minimum hours, that's 13,500. But most of our students are working overtime and probably closer to 20 to 25 hours a week. One of the things that comes up a lot of times too is students with activities. Once again, our team has been just outstanding in terms of working with our students to make sure that they're still able to be a high school student. And I've been very appreciative of that. We've had students who are in sporting, activities that might have taken a break or got hired a little later. We've had students, we've got one currently who's going to college. They're working around the schedule. And we've also discussed like military options. If a student decides to become a part of the apprenticeship program and decides to go to the military right after high school, we've got plans in place, to suit that student as well. So here we're going to go to, I've got Tom Kenny here and Tim Geyers on the line as well. It took a little bit longer than I wanted to, so I'm not going to be able to share a success story, but if you ever want to hear that success story, don't hesitate to contact us. It's a good one. So I've got Tom Kenny here right now, and he's going to go ahead and talk about Henderson's and some obstacles that they have.
Hello, Tom Kenny here, weld engineer. I was asked to go and talk from an industrial standpoint, what this apprenticeship program means to us, the pros and the cons. So one of the first things we would start off with would be, the cons. One of the biggest things that we see is, through OSHA, there's a restriction where the apprenticeship candidates cannot go and use an overhead crane until they're at least 18 years of age, which when we build large parts, that can be a little restrictive, but there's usually a small part assembly that is required. And we've actually found that that's a great place to start them because they feel more confident in running those smaller welds, to get started, and it helps them, break them into, the other areas of welding. One of the other things that we've found was making sure we pick the right mentor. When you go on, we have a weld apprenticeship that starts, we go and couple them with a mentor, and we found finding people that are of similar age, they are able to relate with a lot more. And if they're in a slightly more advanced position in life, like this last round of apprentices, we've coupled them with some of the other apprentices so that we're a year ahead of them, and they're just more willing and open to talk to some of those candidates. Some of the things that I see the industry can offer that, expands upon what the schools already go and teach is, a blueprint reading. There's a big one. Every one of the students that come through, that's the first thing that they always say, that when they get, on the shop floor and they start seeing, hundreds of prints coming through, they can start asking, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And it really helps them become a lot more educated in the blueprint reading world. One of the other things that they go and get is a lot of time to go and hone their welding skills and learning how to, set a welder. There's a difference between mild steel and stainless steel, the different things that you need to take into account. And with all the time that they have, they can really refine those abilities. One of the others is, while they're completing these small part assemblies, they start to learn about, what's the proper order. They can look at a blueprint and start to foresee some of the issues that they might come into. And they start working through those and planning how they put it together, which really helps them understand, small part assembly. And they also have to start thinking about heat transfer, because if they put a weld in one area and then they have a critical weld in a real close area, by having all that heat in there can cause issues, and it really helps them expand their mindset. And another one is the age-old thing of communicating with coworkers. That's something that it's really hard to teach. It just has to be done, and coupled with the right mentor, they can help them work through those, challenges that they may have, because, it is difficult when you're a young individual and you're talking to somebody who's a more senior individual who's been welding for 40 years. But it really helps them. From a company standpoint, it is really impactful to us. In the small part weldments, granted, yes, some people think of them as maybe less important, but by having somebody in that area, we can then redeploy that person that was in that area into another area where it's very impactful to our company and helps us get more product out the door. Some of the others is because they're younger, they're willing to learn, their eagerness to learn. They're really open to new concepts, and especially automation. Some of our more senior guys, they have all these thoughts in their heads from what they've experienced with semi-automatic welding. When they get into full automation, they struggle a little bit. And the new generation, they're very quick to adapt to this new technology. And we're really finding that they excel quite quickly in those areas. Some of the, the other things are, they're trained in our processes. They have the choice whether they want to stay with our company or not. But ultimately, those candidates, they spend 2,000 hours, learning our processes and our product. And so when they graduate, they hit our shop floor and they're running. You don't have that break-in period of 6 months trying to get them to understand what our blueprints look like, what the product looks like, how it goes together. So it's very helpful to us. When they get to our shop, they're thought of nothing less than our reinforcements, because they can be the thing that makes or breaks our production day.
All right, thanks, Tom. Now we have Tim Geyer from Paladin. He's the HR at Human Resources at Paladin. And Tim, if you'd like to go ahead and talk about some of these.
Right on. Thank you, Seth, and welcome everybody. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here to set up more of a chronological story. So I want to start from the beginning and kind of process through with these issues. So the first thing I want to do is echo upon what Seth said. Any of my private industry folks that are on the call today, I would just highly recommend that you partner, if you at all can, with your local schools. Folks that have heard me talk before have said that I had Greer and other folks from the Department of Labor and folks from Workforce Development year after year after year pounding me to do an apprenticeship program. And I was running out of ways. I was going to have to go to different languages to say, no, I wasn't going to do it. One of the reasons I wasn't going to do it was from the bureaucracy side. I just didn't want to take that on. Shoving that off to Seth and the folks at the school. If your school is willing to take on that bureaucracy from multiple employers in the area, it really allows us as the employer to then focus on our employees, which are these students. Yes, they're students. Yes, they're apprentices. They're our employees. So I can't echo that enough. Fast forward a little bit into the programs and steps. We're going to talk about liabilities and insurance. When we got involved with this, all of us heard stories from Greer and others that sometimes folks as insurance companies just put the kibosh to it. You're not having some 16, 17-year-old student in your factory working. The advice that we were given was, whether it's your corporate officers or your insurance companies, push back. Ask why. What do we need to do? Stress to them how important this is. There was even one time I was talking to some more upper level folks within Stanley Black & Decker, and my boss even suggested, hey, tell them that this has been a big deal with the Iowa governor and we've got some nice publicity with the Department of Labor. Good point, and I did do that. So don't hesitate to push back. Now, if ultimately the final answer is, nope, you're not doing it, hey, you gave it your best shot. Don't hesitate to push back a little bit and ask why, and say what an important program and aspect and future development for your staffing needs. So then the next concern, this will echo off a little bit from Tom, as far as concerns. I would highly recommend that everybody Google that's considering this child labor law fact sheet, and you'll just find this document. It's been a godsend for me, and it really lays out some of the intricacies of child labor law and makes it nice, condensed. I want to say it's like 9 pages. The biggest issue for us was the banning folks under 18 from the, quote, power-driven hoisting apparatus. We had great concern, depending on how expansive an interpretation you give. And we've taken a pretty safe approach, conservative approach. So we've been pretty expansive. That can include lifts, hoists, magnets, lift tables, forklifts, etc. And you think, my gosh, we need that for everything. You can make it work. We've made it work. We've made sure everybody understands the concerns. Everybody understands the limitations. Other folks have stepped up to help, as Tom pointed out greatly. Then you direct their work a little bit so that they're not needing to use that equipment every single minute of the day. You can make this work. You just have to educate everyone. So then that gets us more into the liabilities. You know, what's your responsibility? What's the corporate commitment? I'm going to say it once again, the easiest way for me as I've processed this whole thing through this entire long journey, they're your employees, period. And if you take that approach, that changes everything. Whether they're 16 or 17 or 18, they're an employee. We owe it to them to shepherd them and guide them through this journey. They may not necessarily come right in the first day and hit the ground running. If they're 16 years old and just starting this career journey, you're going to take a little more hand-holding and a much stronger mentorship that everybody has talked about. And that's okay. Part of that's why they're making less money than some of your other staff members. But we owe it to these folks to make this successful. And quite honestly, you know, they all talk. If we make it successful for this one, they're going to tell two friends who will tell two friends who will tell two friends. It's kind of funny, Tom hit the same point. I can't stress this either enough. Pick the right mentor. A bad relationship could really ruin what you're trying to do here. Knock on wood, I think we've all done a very nice job of picking mentors, and we've been very fortunate, and it's worked out awesome. But don't think that's not in the back of our minds. If you have somebody who's the greatest welder on your shop floor, and you know they're just not going to have it in them to handle a 17-year-old young adult, then don't set them up with that person. Let's make it successful. But that's just kind of a basic rundown of those points.
All right, thanks, Tim. Now, let's see here. I believe I'm going to go ahead and talk about that later sometime. If you have any questions on that, you know, if you want to hear the story of a success story, feel free to contact us. But other than that, I believe we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Dave now from North Scott. Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks guys. My name is David Lindbrink. I'm the weld teacher at North Scott High School. I'm joined by Shane Kanucky, the North Scott High School principal. And we're just gonna share with you guys the journey we took to start our registered apprenticeship in welding with John Deere and other local businesses, how we decided on our related training, and then just some overall best practices that we feel can help everybody get this established and make it successful.
We just want to make sure, can you see our screen okay?
I can see the picture of you, but I cannot see your presentation.
All right. Can you see it now?
Now I can see the yep.
All right, awesome.
Okay. So how we started this partnership, it's just our journey to a partnership. I think it starts with obviously business leadership. And here's how John Deere sold us on creating this registered apprenticeship and including them in on this. This is how they started with us, and I think it worked out pretty well. The first thing that they did is they came to us, and just as when I talk about us, I'm talking me as a teacher and Shane, our administrator, principal. They just came in and talked a little bit about the company, the benefits package, you know, what is the bonuses of our students working for them, and just get a good feel for what the company had to offer. The next step, what we did is we kind of toured their business, get a little bit of a feel for it. And then the businesses came to us and they looked at our facility and just got a feel for what we're capable of and what improvements we might have needed. After they toured, you know, they kind of gave us a little bit of support of what ways we could improve our facility. You know, we want to make it world class. You know, we want to make our facility the best so we can have great candidates for the welding apprenticeship when they go out into businesses. John Deere and other businesses have been very accessible. If I have questions, anything related to the apprenticeship or technical skills or 5S training. They're very accessible, and that has really helped make this a smooth transition in a good, well-run program. And lastly, as far as business leadership, we feel that it's an investment. We want to make it sustainable. You know, we're putting money into our students at the high school here, but also we understand that the businesses are putting money into it, so it's a two-way street. And we're working together. We want to make sure it's sustainable so we can continue to do this over the long term. Businesses, are you looking for a teacher, or if you're considering doing this, you know, as a teacher, I feel like you need to be very outgoing. You need to be positive, and you need to be a hard worker. This isn't for the faint of heart. You know, it's going to be a little bit of extra work, but I promise you it's well worth it. I feel trainability is important. As a weld instructor, I feel like, you know, I got to get better at welding and preparing these students for the workplace. So I think a trainable teacher that goes above and beyond is good, and then be accountable. You know, not everything is going to be smooth, but as long as you can get good feedback, and you know, if you make mistakes, you're willing to own up for them. Not that there's any huge mistakes that we've made, but I feel that's an important attribute. Okay. As I got Shane Canucky next to me, he's been a super important part of the process. I think you need to include your administrators in on this. It's super important that they help you with scheduling the students. You know, there's a lot of credit hours that will go in later that you got to keep track of and make sure the students are getting all the classes enrolled in their schedule. So administrators are a huge part of that. We offer a lot of dual credit here at North Scott, and helping to understand that has helped me as a teacher, because I got to get a big picture of what classes they need to take to get the basic weld certificate, and also work towards an associate's degree if they want to do that. So my administrators help me out a lot with that. As far as providing resources, time, money, you know, just planning out resources that you might need to improve your weld program. Our weld program was not top notch before we started this, but we're getting there with the help of the registered apprenticeship and feedback from business and their support. I've taken a couple sub days. We toured some businesses. A huge part of this is recruiting businesses. So we've taken a couple hours out of a day. I got a sub, and we'll go tour and see if we can, you know, get more businesses on. So we've allowed that.
Yeah, and that's really been an important component of this, because what I've noticed when we're visiting businesses that maybe are interested is they like to meet me, but it's really David that sells them on the program and the connection to, you know, the education piece of it, just his expertise when it comes to what they're doing and how they're trying to prepare them for the workforce. So me really providing those sub days has been a big component of our success as well.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you need a lot of sub days, but just some to go meet with businesses. I feel like Shane has allowed me to be flexible with time. You know, a lot of times as a teacher, we have a lot of things going on, but he's allowed me time when I have stuff that we have deadlines and we got to get things done, especially when you're first starting your program. He's been really flexible with my time and allowed me to really focus on the apprenticeship while still getting my other stuff done, but being flexible as far as my teaching duties. I am the lead of the RPP. This kind of has to do with that.
That's regional planning partnership for maybe those in education that aren't aware of that.
So I lead the 28 other welding teachers in the area and other areas too. But I've had cell phone access to my superintendent from day one that he got hired, my principal. You know, this is all of us working together. This is not just me. You know, if he's got a question, he's got my cell phone. You know, I got access to him. You know, he is not, you know, above me so much that I can't call him and get feedback, or if I have a question that he can't answer it immediately, which has come up a couple times. I feel like as far as administrative leadership, if you can get an administrator on, they're on our RPP, Regional Planning Partnership leadership team, that kind of understands how we make requests for money, how we develop training, how we order equipment, and that is money from the state level. And they're on that leadership team, and that just tells me that they're invested in this too, and it's just not me alone making this happen. Like I said, I'm a part of the Regional Planning Partnership. I feel our best practices with our partners in RPP leadership is to combine resources. We have Eastern Iowa Community College close. and they've been a big part of combining the resources. I do not teach all the welding classes at the high school. They go to called the Belong Center to our community college to finish up some classes, and they've been really great. Seth talked about bringing students in from other districts, you know, train across districts, bring them in, see who's really good at a welding program, send students there. If you have a strong program, bring them into your facility also. As far as combining resources, Davenport Schools has been really big. Jen Boyd is a curriculum specialist. You know, we've been lucky to have her support, even though she doesn't work for our school district. And Andy Zinn's a top-notch weld instructor in Davenport West. He's been a huge part of this as far as a partnership. And then the RPP supports the content areas. Okay, so this is kind of for our teachers and leadership. As far as the RPP leadership, this has really helped improve our program that set us up to be successful in the registered apprenticeship. We have the Hobart training videos that are used at the community college, and we train our students using those videos. So every single weld that you can imagine that a student would do, the Hobart videos show them how to do it, show them the essentials, how to set up their welder, the safety, just a super big investment that has helped our students to learn. We spend every year, all of our welding teachers getting weld training at a community college or a local high school. We train every year. We're trying to get better. Businesses, I know David Onvianelli, the Director of Labor Relations, has been big. You know, I call him and say, hey, can we get weld training? And, you know, he would open up the weld lab and get us scheduled to come in there. So use the businesses to get the instructor trained to be a high quality welder. We bought electrode ovens, bend testers, tools and equipment. And then we're excited. We are working towards all of our teachers in the area to be a certified weld educator. The community college put that requirement on us to teach the dual credit college courses that I teach at the high school. I teach college courses at the high school, and they put that requirement. So the RPP allowed us to get trained in that and made that investment. We feel we're going to be better weld teachers because of that. Our partnership also, we feel it's important to meet community needs. So if you're thinking about establishing an apprenticeship, you know, is there businesses locally that can support this? You need to think about that. We found out through a workforce analysis, see David Onvianelli's presentation, he already did it on the last webinar, but there's a gap in the Quad Cities and surrounding areas where they're gonna need qualified welders, qualified machinists. And we knew that before we started the registered apprenticeship, so we knew this was going to be sustainable and opportunities are going to be out there for students. You're going to have to go out and recruit local companies, create a relationship, go talk to them. We worked through the Chamber of Commerce, we brought them in, find out what community resources you have to meet your school needs, and contact businesses. That is the biggest challenge we have right now, is getting businesses to trust this program and partner with us. And you're gonna have to do that by recruiting. Contact the businesses, go do face-to-face, go do a tour, whatever it takes to get those businesses on your side so we can get those students into those businesses and into the opportunity. So when you do establish the registered apprenticeship, it is just a game changer for your program. And the reason why is you get support from businesses that you didn't have before. So what businesses, specifically John Deere, has done for us is they've shared the knowledge about the industry. They've shared what they expect out of the students, and they share what they expect out of their teacher, and that would be me. And that is communicated to our students, and we just have a better program and a better product, which is the student at the end. Other business support we've done is to train students and teachers in 5S, welding methods, and the behavioral competencies. So that has been really big, and we apply that into our classroom, which we did not before we established a registered apprenticeship. John Deere has come in and gave us an assessment of our facility and our curriculum. You know, what good things do we have in our facility? What do we need to get better at? Because it's a super important part of the program. They have communicated to us, we can teach them to weld, but we need you to work on keeping your facility clean and neat, you know, shine everything, make it look good, and plan that into your day. And also your curriculum, you know, meeting their needs so that they're ready to go once they start the apprenticeship. And then obviously Seth talked a little bit about communicating opportunities for students. That's big. And then money's a big part. When you establish your registered apprenticeship, you know, you can write grants. You can get the money from the Department of Labor that can just transform your area to have an outstanding program. All right, so best practices for this partnership, we talked about tracking students. And what we do is we really focus on core schedules because we want them to be certified welders by the end of the program. So we really look at that. We also track students as far as applying to the apprenticeship. We have transformed into having students that are a little bit interested to many students interested. And now we're going to have an application process. It's a competitive application to get into the apprenticeship because we have more students in businesses, which is good. We get a better candidate for our businesses. We're also tracking students on their behavior in the classroom, attendance, and we are going through, you'll notice in the slide, we have the behavioral competencies, which is how they're assessed in the registered apprenticeship at the work site. We also do that in the classroom and always communicate those things, which is super important. We also have to track students with their technical competencies. That is the business's job to kind of do that, but we check up on the students and we have milestones of when that happens. As far as other partnerships, make sure you include parents and contact them. Okay, keep them informed. Make sure that the registered apprenticeship contract go through the students, really communicate that contract so they totally understand what they're getting into. And then always communicate with the students their career plans, because there are going to be opportunities at the end when they're done with this, you know, and where do they want to work? You know, how can we support them so that they're happy at the end and parting with a good business?
All right, I'm gonna take over for a little bit here, and I'll try to make my part to this a little, well, honor your time. And so this is our vision at the high school, at North Scott High School. And the one thing that I noticed is when talking with parents, when we say be college and career ready, sometimes they were shutting down right after college and they weren't even getting to the career ready. So we've actually talked about flipping that. And what we want to do here at North Scott is to make sure that our kids have post-secondary certification within 6 years after they leave us. We used to just look at graduation rates, and you know what, our graduation rates were awesome. But what we're trying to get to is how are they doing once they leave us? And with the Governor's Future Ready Iowa goals of 2025, of trying to be at 70% have a certificate of some sort, that ties right into what we're trying to do. And so this is just one area that we know can help us reach that goal. You know, what we're trying to basically do is when our kids are in this pre-apprenticeship program to apprenticeship program, is if they continue and they follow through with it, they will have a basic welding certificate completed by the time they leave us. And the neat thing about that is, you know, we'll have 20 kids that maybe finish this basic welding certificate. And right now, currently, we're only going to have about 5. We have 5 apprentices placed. We know that our kids, that apprenticeship opportunity is awesome. And that's why we want to get more businesses involved. But we also know that our other kids still have a leg up, even if they aren't selected for an apprenticeship. They're going to leave us having a basic welding certificate, which gives them a leg up on on the competition. Now, how this ties into the rest of our goals, basically of all students, is we're trying to create these pathways, welding being one example, that lead to a certification. And so what we've come to realize is, you know, we have a 90-some% graduation rate, and we have about 60% who are finishing some sort of certification or degree. So we want to know what's happening with that gap. How do we get that from 60 to 100, or at least to 90, and then keep trying to, I guess, reach 100%? How do we get there? And we know that the closer we can get kids to having that opportunity, the more likely are they to finish that certification. Well, I'm sorry, I should explain this a little bit. So this basic welding certificate, the green are the classes that are taught by David on our campus. and the orange are the classes that are taught at the Belong Center, which is Eastern Iowa's campus. Eastern Iowa's Belong Center is about, I don't know, 5 miles away from us, so it's an easy jaunt for our juniors to be able to take those. And our goal is that the kids will be done with this before they start their apprenticeship. And so it just creates, I guess, good skills for our students to help the business out as well. This is what a typical schedule would look like for a 9th, 10th grader, 11th grader, 12th grader. And you can see that the green is where the welding classes are, where they're taking the other, their normal gen ed classes at the same time. The 11th grade, you can see where the orange is where they're going to the community college at our last block, 5th block, basically. They do get done. West Delaware had talked earlier about working with like athletics and that sort of thing, and our kids are done in time to still participate in athletics if they would so choose. And then after their junior year, that apprenticeship, that red, that's the summer, and that's where our students are working 40 hours a week basically for the company, and that's the start of the apprenticeship. And then of course the 12th grade year, they're working either in the afternoon for 4 hours a week, or 4 hours a day, excuse me. And then we are looking at providing some more flexibility. John, we have multiple companies we work with, and they've all been pretty flexible to work with our fine arts and our athletics. But we are working on an opportunity to do it at the beginning of the day or the end of the day to try to help that out as well. The one part that we're currently struggling, so that the positives are that kids are going to leave with a basic welding certificate. The struggles we have had are if there is businesses that want them to get an associate's degree in welding, we can't quite get that done. But we are working with the community colleges across the state of trying to figure out, what types of credits could the apprenticeship itself be, and they're developing those credits to help students reach that Associate of Arts degree as well.
Okay, thanks, Shane. And now, as far as recruiting is concerned, I know West Delaware talked about it, but we recommend best practices letters to parents, just explaining the opportunity. We like to speak at the freshman orientation, which is our 8th graders before they come to the high school, and talk about the program. We talk a lot about it to students in class and just establish relationship, go talk to students. Recruiting videos, I know that's a big part of it. We offer job shadows. So we have some freshmen that are showing interest in this. But we want to make sure we place these students, they want to be welders at the end. Not necessarily, but they have to be willing to, show a great interest in welding and want to do that. So we feel job shadows help them make their career decision. Virtual welders, we offer that at recruiting, and we are looking at offering that in our next class, changing that basic welding certificate and going with virtual welders. And then just a lot of manufacturing tours to get them excited about advanced manufacturing. Another key aspect is make sure that you're recruiting motivated. This doesn't necessarily mean they got to be the best student. We're trying to make them welders, but we definitely want them to be motivated and coachable, and show a lot of soft skills, being on time and stuff. But I will mention that we have had students that were not the best straight A students, but when we did put them in the apprenticeship, they elevated their focus academically and in the career. I mean, it just made a huge difference in their lives. So just understand that they don't have to be perfect students, but once you get them in there, a lot of times we're seeing them elevate their game, if you want to call it that. Program pathways, once you provide a pathway for them to get a career at the end, we feel, like I said, it brings out the best in the students. Make it competitive. If there is any problems, make sure you address it immediately. I have no problem with the businesses calling me if there is an issue with the student being late, and I'll talk to the student. I'll call home and make sure, hey, this is what the problem is, how can we help? Just make sure we're communicating, teach the soft skills and reinforce the behavioral competencies, and just reinforce the end goal, which is a career-ready opportunity. And that's all we have. So Appreciate your time. And we're here for you if you guys have any questions.
Thank you so much to West Delaware and to North Scott. We will open it up for questions for the last 10 minutes. If you want to hit *6 and ask a question or type it in the chat box below, I'll give a few seconds for our first questions to come in. Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. My computer is actually restarting on the connecting of Zoom, so I don't know why that's happening, but Seth, why don't you talk a little bit about your success story?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. The student that you saw on the slide right before the questions was a student who struggled a little bit in high school. He's a great kid, just wasn't necessarily meant for high school at the time. But he was interested in welding. So throughout the first rounds of our apprenticeship program, when we had our first hiring, he applied and got rejected due to his absences. And rather than taking his hopes and dreams and destroying them, he shaped up a little bit. When we did our second round of hiring in April, he was taken by XL Specialized Trailers, and from there just started just doing some amazing things. I'm sorry, I was just reading your thing, your screen there. Actually, throughout this process, he was a senior when he was finishing up. Finished the program in less than a year, was able to get multiple hours in afterwards, and has just been an asset to that industry. I actually stopped out there the other day, and the supervisor kind of told me a little story. Basically said Jeff was doing some work, and he was looking at Jeff a little bit, and Jeff asked him what he was looking at, and he said, "I'm just picturing you with a blue hat," which would be a lead position. And that's after a year and a half of working in XL Trailers, and there's some people who've worked there for much longer. He's been willing to learn every tool on the side that he runs. He builds the beams, and he knows every tool and how to operate them. Coming from a kid who there was probably questions whether he'd graduate, to being an outstanding employee at XL Specialized Trailers, and a vital part of their organization. I think that just tells me that what we're doing here between all of these apprenticeship programs, and I'm sure everybody could share stories like this, but it means more than I think we really even know. And for a person like Jeff, without this, who knows where he would have been today. So just a great experience for him, and it was a great experience to us. So
Yeah, Tim, thanks for sharing that. We have similar stories to that, and it's just amazing when you can create a pathway where they see the end goal and they see the relevance of it, of how that really ups their game at the high school itself as well. So it's just a neat opportunity all around.
Well, if we have no further questions, I'm going to throw in an anecdote myself. One of my most favorite stories I have out of this whole process, and the folks at West Delaware have heard this multiple times. So our very first two apprentices that we had, coincidentally, they were friends in real life as well. And I've been very nervous because we've been downplaying it. These folks, I know everybody wants to buy into the cliche that young people have no work ethic and they don't want to work. The folks that we've had, I've actually been nervous because I still want them to graduate and get their high school diploma, and they got to sleep once in a while. So our two gentlemen had gotten up there in hours. They were working a pretty significant amount of hours. And I'd asked the supervisor, you know, hey, go to them and corral them back in a little bit. He comes to me the next day, and he's playing a prank on me. I'll spill the beans right now. And he goes, man, next time you can talk to those two guys. I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? And he gets this big grin on his face, and he goes, you'd have thought I kicked their favorite puppy when I told them they were going to have to cut back their hours. These folks are going to work their butts off for you. Again, as everybody has stressed, this is a competitive program, and they want it, and they want it bad. And again, just do everything you can to get this program in your community with your schools and your businesses.
Thank you, Tim. Over to North Scott, I got a question for you. Is there anything that you wish you would have known when you were starting your program that maybe you can share with the rest of the team before they start their program?
So it's not a setback to me at all, but one thing I wish I would have known is just how to recruit businesses easier. I put just as much time into recruiting businesses as I do to the other parts of the registered apprenticeship. So we figure that, you know, you hear the cliche like, man, we're missing students. We don't have a workforce. You know, we can't find qualified workers. And we feel like now that that's a myth. Like, that's not true. We are providing this for you, but for various reasons, businesses are not signing up as quickly as I wish they would have. But just know that it's going to take time, and we're going to overcome this, and we're willing to do whatever it takes. Like next week, I'm going to tour a business, and we're going to establish a relationship. And, you know, I'm not going to say that next year they're going to have an apprentice, but maybe in 2 years. You know, it just takes time, just patience. So to answer your question, what I wish I'd known is just be patient with the businesses. You know, there's a lot of bureaucracy and stuff that they got to deal with that just this webinar may, you know, sign a couple of businesses on and get a partnership.
And I just add on to that, you know, Tim mentioned it earlier, is there's a lot of good resources now that we can take with us when we go talk to businesses, that some of those top questions, just our experience through the last year now, and those types of things that we didn't have when we were going to business to begin with. You know, we were going kind of with not really knowing, and now we have a lot of, we can answer a lot of their questions going in, which is more beneficial. So take advantage of the people that already have apprenticeships and talk to them about some of how they go and talk to businesses.
Perfect.
Maybe one last thing, maybe too, a thing that surprised me a little bit about the apprentice is how much support the businesses are going to give once they sign on, just because they see the just great students that they're going to get. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that information from both North Scott and from West Delaware, and from our business partners. We really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing your expertise today. I just wanted to give a little bit more of a housekeeping. We have 3 more webinars coming up. We're taking off next week, but the week following we'll be talking about federal and state funding. The week after, we'll be talking about the CTE instructor requirements, some things that were brought up today on how do you get that dual credit. So that'll be in that discussion. And then the last, to wrap up this webinar series, will be on promising practices. I also added in our contacts of the individuals who spoke today. So if you have any questions and you want to reach out to them directly, I'll leave this slide on your screen until the end of the webinar. And again, the webinar will be posted to the FutureReadyIowa.gov and the EarnAndLearnIowa.gov websites, along with the PowerPoint presentations that you saw today. So you will receive all the resources that we shared in a short period of time. So thank you again for all jumping on, and thank you so much for our presenters today. I really appreciate all your time.